We are live, and this is Harrowing's podcast with the Everyday Junglist. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I was expecting you to be on the beach walking the dogs.
I was too, but man, I got up late.
I figured I saw you
It's eight
posting
in
it
the
six
morning.
hours ago.
Yeah, it's 8 in the morning, and I was up late last night, and it was a long weekend. I guess it's a long weekend, so yeah, wasn't able to. I need to. The dogs are out there freaking out. No, not freaking out, but they want to go for their walk. So, anyhow, I just couldn't get myself up and going. So, yeah.
Well, it's not easy. I mean, I've been out shopping already and dropped Lynn off at work about 7:30, a little later, so I would get over at BJ's about 8 o'clock, the food warehouse, and haul out my loot and contribute to the overall flow of the economy. I don't know, man.
Good for you.
It really seems like it's going over the edge of the cliff these days. You got a new gig though. How's the new gig going?
The new game is keeping me busy. It's weird. It's a startup, right? So I've never worked in a startup before. I've always been in a big, let's say, a large industry company, do a
Mm.
research role. So this is different. And so I'm also, as an executive, of course, I get all the executive perks. So, so but no, this
Of a
right,
startup, the
right,
executives.
yes. You're right. So,
Right.
because the chief scientific officer, that's one of the executive roles. We have a CEO and a CSO and a CFO, and that's the whole company. So, we're all executives, so it's great. So, but anyway,
I
but
love being the
anyway,
executive director of the Harold B. Hill
yes.
Foundation too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so of course, in addition to the executive washroom and all those great perks you get lots to the jet, and all that other stuff. So, no, but it's busy, and I know it's just weird. It's a different position to be in because I'm used to being like when you're in the big company, you're kind of like in the powerful role. You sort of have like like everybody wants to kind of come to you and do business with you, if you will, and sort of like you sort of have more control. And when you're in the startup role, you're more like the little guy, the little fish trying to get the big fish. And I don't know, it's sort of a different, I guess, position to be in. It's interesting. I like it though, and I love the technology mostly. So I'm really excited about it. And
Oh,
I've
that's
had
good.
some I've had some some interesting success. I don't know if I
Mhm.
could talk about this or not. I think I could talk about this. I don't think there's anything
Talk about it
necessarily
in general
conf-
terms.
I don't think
Get
there's
out
anything
of the
necessarily.
NDA
Yeah,
space.
there's nothing confidential here necessarily. So one of the applications for this technology is in the therapeutic side and essentially in the veterinary side. And I have a cat that has a condition, chronic rhinitis, which is it's pretty it's many cats have this condition. It's basically almost
Bunny
like
eyes, right?
sort of you get something they don't know exactly know what causes it, but one of these sequelae, one of the things that happens is you get infections oftentimes in the sinuses, and these infections and cats. Well, many people don't know this, but their kidneys are very sensitive. So
Yes.
traditional antibiotics are you can't necessarily give them all to cats, and you can only give them for short periods of time. And so this phage, this technology I'm working with, has one big advantage is that it doesn't have that effect on the kidneys because it doesn't work the same way at all. And so we have been looking at and working in concert with our veterinarian, the
Mhm.
use of this phage technology with our cat here who has this chronic rhinitis, and so we started some treatment, and it's looking interesting. It's looking promising. I can't say too much more than that, other than I think to me
Seeing some symptoms clear up, huh?
it's this I don't know. You rarely see in science something happen in front of your eyes. Like things are slow. If this is what people don't get out of science, they see the eureka moment or whatever. The guy discovers this thing on the bench, and he's like, "Oh wow!" It doesn't work that way. It doesn't ever work that way. It goes really really slowly. It's usually pretty frustrating, and nothing ever seems to work. And mostly things fail. 97% of experiments. I always tell those people, 97% of experiments fail. If they don't, you're not doing science right. In my opinion, you're doing it wrong. You're really not doing science. You're doing something else because mostly what you're doing fails. But in this case, it's a thing you do. You do this treatment and you see results basically immediately, and it's amazing to me. It's not something I'm used to. It kind of blows my mind, but it makes me feel like wow, the technology is really special. And they've seen similar things in people. I will say, and there are people. It's very rare that this treatment, at least in the West, that this treatment is being used in Russia and the East. It is being used more,
Yep.
but it's just amazing to see it. I can only imagine when antibiotics were discovered, and the first people were sort of cured, if you will, from the
Right. How
antibiotic.
things have usually
What it was,
killed
how
them.
amazing, how amazing it must have been, and it's sort of similar to that. Now, I don't think this is a cure. Rhinitis is a complicated problem in cats, and infections that happen because of it are not the cause generally. So, the ability to treat the infection is not going to, I don't necessarily think, fix the problem, but it's a major help. And because antibiotics are, just first of all, resistance, as we talked about last time, is a big deal. But in cats, because of the kidney thing. So, in any event, it's been pretty cool to see that. So, I've been really excited to, do a little home science, if you will. So, and actually see it work is really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, mind blowing. And if you're not following what we're talking about out there, who's those of you who are listening, we're talking about using phages to attack bacteria as opposed to using antibiotics. And phages function against bacteria very much like viruses do with eukaryotic cells like us, like the
Good
flu.
for you, Hal. Look at you. Look at you. You learned. You actually can learn.
I'm listening to you.
you,
Yeah.
you learned last time. I guess you heard last time. You actually
Well,
paid
good
attention.
layman's
Good for you.
plug,
no,
right?
no,
Yeah.
you summed up really very nicely. That's a good job. Al. I appreciate it. Good job. Usually people don't pay attention to what I'm saying at all. It's completely I
Well,
take
you need
over.
an interpreter, but
Right.
well,
Well, I tend to mumble and I talk real fast and all
I
that sort of thing.
follow what you're saying though. So that's the cool part.
That's
It's
good,
like
Hal. No,
we
I
can
remember like
cooperate.
right. So you were talking about some book or something before when I jumped on there.
Yeah, I was got at the Museum of American Tools off the top of the stack. It had fallen on the floor, and I picked it up, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." This is Eric Sloan's book. I understand it's quite valuable now if you can find it. I have
Okay.
to look it up exactly. My father got this copy in November 1973, and it like has beautiful illustrations in there. I broke the spine.
American Tools.
Yeah,
Okay.
of different tools. So the idea is on the back. I was reading the blurb from Stuart Brand of the Last Whole Earth Catalog. You remember Stuart Brand, Access to Tools, 1960s guy, did this Whole Earth catalog
You
thing for the Epic.
you got pre my time there, I think.
Hey,
I think you're a little bit before my time there.
am I?
I don't
Oh,
remember
well,
Stuart
this is important history for you.
Brand. Well, thanks. So why are these American tools? These were developed in America. These are
Yeah,
American.
early American tools. Why? Yeah,
Okay.
I was just gonna read it to people, and if you didn't
Oh
show
man,
up,
that would have been a fascinating show.
yeah, I think so. It was the copyright is 1964 by Wilfred Funk Incorporated.
Right.
You want
Okay.
the Library of Congress information now? It just says the sketchbook is dedicated to the unrecorded pioneer Americans who fashioned their own tools. Although mass production has made their old tools obsolete, along with early American individualism, these ancient implements are symbols of a sincerity and integrity and an excellency that the unionized craftsmen of today
That's what
might do well to emulate. Anyway, yeah, making
let's
your
see.
own
That's a word
tools.
you hear
Got
very often.
tons of them, and what they are, and so many things are for tool collectors. It's like,
Tools.
okay, what's this?
People collect anything,
It's a
won't they?
tool, but what is
Who
it? What's
collects
it for?
tools?
What? Who collects tools?
Actually, laboratory in the laboratory environment, you would find things that you just like, what is this? Every time I go into a lab, or if I move into a lab, or you start opening drawers and just looking at stuff and what's in there, and you find
Right.
these things, and you'll be like, what the heck is this thing? Because the laboratory, it has specialized equipment oftentimes, and many times you have no idea what the heck it goes for, and stuff just gets left around from people that lived there or in there previously, and yeah, you find some very interesting things when it comes to
Yeah, I was
tools.
going to look for whether or not this thing includes the tools of the apothecary,
Ah,
because that could be interesting for you. All medical apparatus that your
that's
forebears used to get you where you are.
right. My
Yeah,
forebears,
yeah, exactly.
my
People,
biological
generations.
forebears.
There's lots of you had to make your own tools in lab, didn't you?
They
With
did
like
back in the day. They,
glass.
they did, and actually, they not
Mhm.
only that they did some very dangerous things too with their tools. Mouth pipetting. I don't know if you know what a pipette is. It's a thing you use to draw liquid up and down.
A
And
pipette.
so, and many times you work with somewhat dangerous liquids in the laboratory. Maybe not as much in biology as other, but some in biology, yes. And they used to use rather than like a bulb or like now we use electronic thing, but you would use your mouth, right, to suck these
Oh,
liquids
right,
up.
right. Siphon it
And they
off.
did this like not that long ago, like in the '60s, I think they were still
Yeah.
doing this.
Well, you got to
Yeah,
learn how to
maybe
do that.
maybe a little bit. So
Got to do it right.
it's really dangerous, right?
Instead,
You don't want to screw it up because you're talking about like pathogenic micro. You like mouth pipetting these
potassium
things up and down,
cyanide or something, right?
right? And it's like yeah, you don't want to screw that up. And but no, I never did any mouth pipetting, but I definitely still work with some scientists who've had done mouth pipetting in the laboratory, which I just find so fascinating and funny. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this little book though, and people who are into wood tools, hand tools, they're really into it. It's kind of like
Yeah,
anything
I can
else that
imagine.
people
Yeah, I
collect.
can imagine. Yeah.
And this one says, behind making your own stuff, this is the Stewart Brand quotation. Behind making your own stuff, there's another level, making your own tools to make your own stuff. This book gives detailed design information and fine illustration of America's pre industrial tools, plus how to use them. Whistle while you work and revel in the nostalgia. Tell the 20th century to go jump.
So you need
21st
to now.
century, too,
Now,
right?
obviously, you need tools to make your own tools. So, is there a book on how to make the tools that you use to make your own tools? Is the question.
Well, at some level, yeah, you need a file, right?
You
And
need
I
something to
think you
make
can
your
actually
own
make a file. I'm just going back in my head here because I used to work in the gunsmith shop in Colonial Williamsburg. And if you
tool.
ever
Did
get a
it?
hold of the Gunsmith in Colonial America
So you
DVD,
grew up in Colonial Williamsburg, and I find this
what?
so fascinating about you, Hal.
Right.
The actual colonial. You grew up in a fake town, basically a
It's
fake
not
American
fake.
nation.
That's
Not
the
for it's
thing. It's
real, but it's
not
fake.
fake.
Right, but it
It's
is,
one of the
but it's
few things that isn't fake. I mean,
right,
Deerfield Village and Sturbridge Village, yeah, those are fake.
right.
They moved old buildings into a park and then sort of made a thing out of it.
But growing
No,
up in an ancient,
Williamsburg though was there. Its
it was,
bones were there. It's got
but
good
things were.
bones.
I just find that so interesting to me. It's like I don't know if you've ever seen that show, The Prisoner. Maybe that's a really old show, but
The
anyways,
prisoner. Yeah,
yeah,
that's no show.
remember that show? Anyway, see how he was in that. He had a the world almost of the village, if you will, and it's sort of that's what it reminds me of.
Well, yeah,
But
there was also this one called oh God, what was it called? The Village? I can't remember. It was directed by Ron Howard, and it
okay, so
was
a
M.
movie.
Night Shanahan thing.
Yeah, Emily show. Yeah, yeah.
And they made this little village in a park, and we're living like in the 19th century. But they were like not telling their children that they were living in a park and the 20th century was outside. And they made up this thing that lived in the woods that would get you if you weren't careful. And oh yeah, it was pretty awful. Very
you had that
Jim
Colonial
Brody was
Williamsburg,
in it. Hey,
and you had that in Colonial Williamsburg, something out there in the
no, we
woods.
didn't really have anything to keep us in. The thing is, like, I was not.
You had
I lived
seventh
in
grade
a
tour buses like mine from the my school that went down there when I was a kid.
sure.
Yeah, and
I
that
used
was
to.
our big trip, our big I don't know what high school or not high school, junior high maybe or whatever it was, sixth grade. Your
Yeah,
civics trip or whatever that you do, and it's Colonial Williamsburg. At least we did it in DC and
get little Jamestown in there too.
right, little James exactly did the whole Americana
The
thing. And it was
whole triangle. What do they call it? The historic triangle.
you're right.
Mm.
It's fun. I still remember that trip, and I'm sure many Americans have done that trip. Young kids have done that trip, and it was fun. It was neat to see. But I can't
Yeah.
imagine living. I can't imagine living there, like not just working there, but actually living there,
Well, people
growing up
did.
there.
I didn't have to live in the village itself, right?
You did now, okay.
I grew up in a suburb
A
outside of
suburb, okay.
Williamsburg. When we moved to a
But
gated
then you worked. But
community,
then you worked in there. But then
I
you worked
worked
there, like
in at the foundry in Palace Green, and then at the gunsmith shop, which is down, and they call it Denby because it's so close to Newport News. And the closest neighborhood is Denby to Williamsburg, but it's far east. Yeah,
yeah.
the town
And then,
near the
then you
capital. And
then you're
they
playing the
moved
fife.
it.
Then you're doing the fifing thing in the in the
Yeah, I
corner.
piped all over the town, man. We used to go out in the summertime and entertain people in line. We had tin whistles as well as these things, and we could play all kinds of dances and folk music and stuff, kind of lower register, not up on the high register, and
What does this
entertain
mean?
the
What does
people
that even
waiting in
mean?
lines.
What does that mean? Low register. I don't even know what that means.
Oh, you don't know the scale? If you
No.
got a tin whistle, for instance, the high register is up there. The low register is
Man, it's too early for that. I think I like the low
up.
earlier in the morning.
Yeah, most people do. Because the whole idea of the upper register is to get across the sound of musket fire and
Right.
cannon fire,
I
so
remember
that
reading that somewhere.
you can
That's where
hear.
the fife is, so you could hear it over the right.
Yeah, so and through the smoke because before that you used flags to communicate,
But you
but
couldn't
then you
see.
can't
Yeah,
see
see
the
if there's smoke.
flags. Got to have the fifes and the drums to sort of let you know where your troops are and all the
And the
smoke.
fifes did not that came from Europe, right? That was a British, I guess, a British thing.
Swiss.
Swiss, the Swiss, of course.
Yeah, the Swiss developed it,
Makes a lot of
and
sense, actually.
one of my guests is is based in Switzerland. He's an American.
Right.
He's based in Switzerland. He's a flute maker and known as the world's greatest fifer.
The world's
Now,
greatest
Yankee
fighter.
Magazine of all
That's not
things.
you. I thought that was you.
I
The world's
liked it.
greatest fighter.
I'm not that good.
You're not-
I went back and fifed on December 7th, though. I did the parade in Williamsburg. There are little
You
video
did.
clips of it out there somewhere.
Okay.
Anyway,
So how's Fife the popularity of the Fife these days? Is it still
it's
hanging
not
in
very
there?
popular.
There's
No, it never was. I mean, the whole idea behind
it's
the
not
fife
blowing
in
up the one.
Switzerland, I didn't know this. The skip
Right.
told me it was basically that
Uh,
the Swiss, they have the Swiss mercenaries who
uh
take care of the Pope, the Swiss Guard,
yeah, yeah, right.
right?
Those guys, yeah.
And the reason for that is that apparently the Swiss military, and
Uh-huh.
everybody in Switzerland is military, by the way.
Yes,
Everybody's
right. I know that. I
military,
understand.
right?
I've been there actually. I've
But
met some. Yeah, they can all
if
shoot. I guess.
back in the old days of the cantons when they were competing against each other and stuff, they used the fife and drum to basically communicate, "We're coming, get out of the way or be dead."
Yeah,
Because they were such, you know
they were feared actually. If you could hire to find a
yeah, they were such fighters that they would exterminate their enemy.
right. Can you
So
imagine
the
that? What
fife
a
and
world
drum
that
was
was.
fair
You,
warning.
you're actually scared of the Swiss. That must have been quite a different world. The Swiss
Well,
are coming.
apparently we
Oh
still
no!
are.
All right, right.
Nobody's messing with the Swiss, right?
That's true. That's very. They're so neutral.
And,
So neutral.
yeah, we think, you know, I've heard the other one, which is, over the period of time, we had so many wars and conflicts and stuff, whereas Switzerland had 500 years of peace and came up with the cuckoo clock in the time that they were,
Interesting.
I don't know.
It's very nice.
And we
Very
also
nice.
came up with other things. Switzerland's famous for its chemistry and pharmacy,
Oh yeah,
and
for
things like
sure.
that, of
Yeah.
course. And,
And actually, Switzerland is one place I was in. I think it was Geneva. This is where I got chased by a cab driver because I didn't have any cash. I did not have any cash to pay the cab. I think it was in Geneva. I can't remember exactly where it was, but yeah, I
did you
didn't have
get
the.
caught?
No, I ran down into the subway. The dude was so pissed.
I bet it
I didn't
is.
know what to do. I did not know what to do, and I was kind of panicked. I was in you're in a foreign country, and the dude just freaked out on me. Maybe it was Germany. I can't remember if it was Germany or Switzerland, but I didn't know what. And the guy was like, no, he just refused to accept a credit card. This wasn't
Oh,
that
wow.
long ago, and I didn't have cash. I had no way to get cash. I didn't know how even to approach getting cash. And the dude absolutely flipped out on me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I started walking away, and then the dude starts chasing after me in his car.
With your Swiss?
As I ran, yeah, I ran down to the subway, and then I just sort of disappeared. Like, sorry, man, I didn't know what to do, so I just
Oh,
sort of panicked, I guess. Fortunately, there was no Swiss Guard around to
yeah, no, you're
get me.
lucky. The gendarme didn't get
I
you.
feel bad for that guy. If I knew where he was, I'd pay him today, but I don't know what happened to him.
Well, you know what I do when I have those kind of things where I can't actually get to it? I think about, well, what charitable organization should I contribute to sort of make amend to that in a bleak
Right.
way?
Well,
And maybe that ripple effect will come about. And I'm doing this
well,
because I shafted this other person that I can never find.
I bought a Swiss Army knife. Does that count? A Swiss Army knife I bought the other day.
Yeah, maybe you've got a picture of Arnie knife. Maybe that counts. It's all flow, right?
They're super cheap, by the way. I had to use it. Actually, I had to use a Swiss Army knife like for the first time, probably ever in my life. My actually it was the last or 2 nights ago, my tire blew out in my car on the way back from the store. And actually in Tijuana, in the middle of the night, it's a fairly dangerous, not super, but a little bit dangerous of a situation. And so I've got to change the tire on the side of the highway really quick, like as quick as I can, right? Because I'm a little bit nervous and there's cars blowing by at all kinds of speed. And I had to break open this thing, and I couldn't do it. Another thing I had to do it was a Swiss Army knife. But the blade on the thing is so chintzy. It almost snapped the blade trying to get this thing. So, anyways, Swiss Army knives are not the most hardy, it's robust tools, I guess, in the world. Whatever. It's my point. It did
Doubt if
work
they're
though.
even made in Switzerland anymore, you
It
know?
did. It did the job, but barely.
I bet you they're made in China. They probably outsource them all.
Probably they probably did.
Or
Yeah.
Vietnam or something, that
Right.
we're
Right.
outsourcing most of our manufacturing out into Asia.
Yeah. And of course,
I don't
this car.
know.
I never, so I rarely forget my phone when I go out, and I remember as I left the neighborhood. Oh no, I don't have my phone on me. Maybe I should turn around and get it. I'm like, nah, I won't need it. I'm only going like, 5 miles away or whatever it was. And once you know it, that's the time that, the car tire thing blows out. And I'm stuck on the side of the highway with, and I got no phone. And unfortunately, I had a spare tire and all that kind of stuff to change it. But yeah, it could have been a shitty situation. It was a shitty situation as far as me panicking, but But fortunately, I had my two big dogs with me. I wasn't too worried about it. It's not like it's, as you saw, Tijuana's not like everyone says it is. And it was, it's a major highway. It was more about the traffic that I was worried about than, like roving highway bandits or whatever coming to get me.
Yeah, we're just getting clipped by a passing car. That
Correct,
happened to
correct.
a physics professor of mine in Germany. He was at Randolph-Macon. He had been one of the guys who had like given us orientation, and then in the following summer, I think he was over working at CERN, the big collider,
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, right.
and he stopped along the autobahn to help some stranded motorist, and a car clipped him and killed him, just like
Did
that.
it really? Yeah,
Yeah, so unlucky. Bill Hesse. I remember his name still. That was about 1981. Kind of
going
wonder
through my
what
head.
kind of contributions he would have made to physics had he not been clipped. Or maybe he was about to make this huge mistake in physics that would cause the black hole to separate
Right, that
the Earth into the
would have
size of
ended
a
the world.
basketball.
Thank you, car that clipped him. Good job. You saved us all.
I think about that a lot in terms of time and our effect on things.
Yeah, you
Because you're
can't.
doing this work and, the law of unintended consequences is startup might actually do something that gets loose from the lab.
Yeah,
You get a
I
lot
have
of that?
I have these thoughts occasionally, and as I was doing this cat thing, as I was discussing earlier, those thoughts were sort of in the back of my mind, like, okay, but what are the unintended consequences here? Because you're always thinking that, because
Right.
you have to be thinking that as a scientist, and this is not just me making this decision. Like in a vacuum to do this. We've got our veterinarian on board. We've got all other scientists. We've got tons of data that says this is super safe. I mean, we got all these things saying that, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, there's always like, well, what am I missing here? If I'm missing something, I don't. First of all, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt the cat, obviously, because I want the cat. That's the reason I'm treating the cat. But I don't want to hurt anybody else. Obviously, myself, who's there, my wife, who's there, any of our other animals, and and all these other things are going through your head at the time. So, and then there's only obviously so many things you can check. At some point, you are doing something that's a little bit unknown. So there's always a little bit of risk in biology. It's maybe sometimes less risk, sometimes more risk than other sciences, but there's always a little bit of risk, and that's why we have all these procedures and protocols in place to mitigate and minimize the risk. But it's never going to be zero, and it's just with as if with life. I mean, you take chances if you want to go forward, and so sometimes you have to take chances. And usually, if you're smart and you're careful, you don't pay the price. But you
Yeah.
never know. You can never be 100% certain about anything.
No. And, I can imagine that if superphage got launched on the world, they could do in my gut bacteria, I'd be unable to digest.
Right. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't quite that. It doesn't quite work that way. And just like with
They maybe
antibiotics,
put my mind at ease.
yeah. So I'll put your mind at ease. So with phage, even though they don't have the same mechanisms of resistance, the
Mhm.
bacteria that the phage, in fact, they do develop resistance or will develop resistance to phage. It's a biological game. It's a game. It's a game. I mean, it is a game. It's a contest. Who's strong? Kind of like who's strongest. So the bacteria evolve, the phage evolve, because the one's infecting the other. But they both want to survive, or maybe the phage, if you don't consider them alive. It's currently we don't. But the bacteria want to survive for sure, and so they're evolving constantly strategies to evade these phage. And the phage are also at the same time evolving and strategies to
Yeah.
infect them
Well,
and
that's the
kill them.
thing.
So
Yeah. How could they
it's a
not be?
biological arms race. Is a good way to put a good way to put it.
Yeah, it is a biological arms race, but we don't consider phages alive, even though they do
Correct.
evolve.
I mean, I consider them alive. But
Because
the scientific because they don't have the so there are certain
they can't
criteria for life.
actually.
Yeah, they can't live without another being, another living organism. They can't supposedly can't reproduce on their own basically, and they don't have any metabolism. So they don't metabolize things. They don't digest things. They don't produce energy on their own.
Right.
So those are
They
some of the hallmarks.
commandeer the mechanism of the bacteria in order to generate more of
Right.
themselves.
Right, and so that's considered one of the hallmarks of life is the ability to do those things, and they can't do those things. But I have a couple arguments I use is number one, what so every living thing there is a virus, a phage that will infect it. There's no exceptions to that we know of. Every single living thing has a virus that will infect it. So, and yet every
It's like a
and
kill
no,
switch.
right, but no non-living things have viruses that infect them. Now, there's not a single non-living thing that gets infected by a virus.
Ah,
So
okay.
why would there be a thing which is not alive that would only infect things which are alive? is one of my arguments that I use. And it just to my mind, it makes no sense. Now, purpose questions are not really science questions, to say why. So it's sort of a weaker argument because it's like, what's the purpose of it? Well, maybe there is no purpose. Maybe that's
It's
just
just the way
the
it
way it is.
is.
But the evolutionary argument, I think, is a little bit stronger because you could say, all living things are affected by evolution by natural selection. So they all are evolved by the natural selection, and no non-living things do. And then you say, do have viruses evolved by natural selection? And of course they have. Yeah, I think it's obvious. So logically, you have to say that they're alive then, because all the living things have evolved by natural selection, and so and viruses have as well. That to me, that tells me that they're alive. So you have those two really strong, at least one strong argument and one weaker argument as to why I think viruses should be considered alive. But of course, they still are not, and that's the sort of the standard paradigm is that no, they're not alive. What they are is then a good question. A good question. But
Now, yeah, we got the I'm an aliver from Greg Siragusa.
oh, I know, Greg.
Um, but question to ponder: which came first, the phage or the host? Great conversation, guys. Thanks. Well, thank you, Greg. You know Greg, huh?
I do,
Um,
Greg. Dr. Siragusa is a well respected, highly respected microbiologist, food microbiologist, colleague of mine, and very, 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 a very strong, very
so
sharp scientist.
that's what
So
I'm looking for.
yeah, what
Yeah,
came
yeah.
first, the phage or its host? Great question, Greg. I don't know the answer. Why don't you tell me? So I don't suppose we can't invite other people. Can we invite other people into the chat, or it doesn't
I
work
think we
that way?
probably can. Do you see an invite button?
No,
I've
I don't
invited you.
actually.
I can invite
I don't.
you to
I
the
don't
chat.
want. I don't want to put Greg on the spot here, but
I'd have to
uh,
look him up. I'd have to know him.
yeah,
You can do that if you host, I think.
yeah. Next time, maybe
Um,
if I do a host, maybe I can see if
there
I can
you go.
invite people. But he's a good guy to talk to actually about this very question because he has some expertise in this area. But
I'm
in
not,
any event,
we're sending him an invite, so maybe he'll jump in. So we're
yeah.
waiting for him to
No
join.
pressure, Greg. No pressure, Greg. You don't
No
have to
pressure.
join,
You
but
don't
if you
have to
want to,
join if you
if you
don't
want
feel
to say,
like it.
if you want to say hi, and I don't, we'll put him on camera. Do you know if I can actually do more than one person on camera
I think
at a
so.
time?
I think I have done that. Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I don't
it's
know
sort
if
of like
it's
a
on
standard
my
meeting.
others. Yeah.
I guess just like a standard
The
meeting format.
Origin, who's also out here mentioning chocolate and watches. She's been on with me and Kay Stoner on Fridays, and it's just going to be me and Origin next time. She's got a thing called fairAIeconomy.com going on where she's like
Right.
built a platform for people to like host their stuff, and it's like elaborate. I don't quite understand all the details. I got to read a white paper one of these days. That's one of
So
the
what was
things I'm
speaking of
working on.
AI? What was your conference like? You were telling me
Oh,
about some
well, it's
AI.
interesting, right? Most of the people were
The one
talking
I
about
just
it.
the one I made fun of your presentation slide. Sorry about that, by the way. Was that was your presentation slide that I took to task? Huh?
Not my personal one.
Oh, it's not your first.
I
Okay,
wasn't
good.
presenting.
Okay,
I was just
okay.
there.
All right.
I
Okay,
was just
fine.
looking at what the guys were doing. I forget what that was about, but you can re-enlighten me if you remember.
Hey,
Um,
there's the man,
hey, there he is.
Greg.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
hey,
Greg.
thanks
We're
for
going to
joining.
talk a little bit about this conference, and I'll let it go over to you guys to talk about phages and what's real and what's not. I don't know. You know,
Yep.
what was interesting was most people were talking about agentive AI to work workflows. There was very
Uh-huh.
little about AI chatbots and the drama that's being spun up around that field by
Yeah.
many at the moment. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching out of the corner of my eye as people are talking about if we build it, it will kill us all. It's kind of like the phages, right? Let's go back to that.
We didn't build them. We did not build them. They were natural, but
Can you
Well,
manipulate them?
oh yeah, big time. And we do, and that's one of the things that this company that I'm with is involved in, and has done, and that's our kind of our core technology is to modify them in ways that in this case we modify it to produce a light, basically a reporters that we can see, and so we can sort of use that to image them or do different things, detect different things that they will infect, and there's other things that we can do with that. So it's sort of the core technology of the company we're with, or I'm with.
And Greg, you want to introduce yourself and what your background is here as an
sure. I'm
advisor?
Greg Saragusa, and I have the pleasure and the honor to work with Dan, um, who just has so much knowledge. Dan, it always impresses me
Oh, thanks,
the
Greg.
the breadth of your knowledge and the depth. But um, I enjoyed this. I just stumbled on it. I to be honest, I didn't even quite understand what Substack was, but now I did. Yeah. And thank you for the conversation. And it occurred to me that I'm working on something right now. It's a top 10 list, and it's the top 10 things that will always remain in an analog state. What are the top 10 things that will always remain in an analog state? Because they're so basic, we really can't improve on them. And one is
Five, the
one is
five,
that's
the
very
five,
cool.
the fife's one, right?
Five.
Analog. Now you
Right.
can't get a
So
woodwind synthesizer.
I have
Oh,
my
shut up.
I have my fife here. I don't know how
Why
to
do you
play
play
it.
one
So
too, Greg? No way. You don't play
yes.
the five too. I
Well,
didn't know that.
I try. I listen to Hal, and he has the fingering down. I so now that's a good
Actually, you guys could be brothers. They look like long lost brothers, perhaps. Yeah, there's some similarity there in appearance.
Well, we're doing pedigree collapse. We're very closely related.
recall. So yes, I appreciate it. One of the things on that list, it doesn't have to be a thing as in a physical thing, but one of them is conversation. And I've really enjoyed your conversation here. And in fact, I'm 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 late. I should have been in my lab an hour ago. And then I started listening to you guys, and I'm
We're keeping
delayed.
you from work. Perfect.
So
Unintended consequences.
I'll leave you guys to your conversation. I hope you guys do it again. And
Yeah,
but
you're welcome to join.
I'll put the fife on that list. One of the other things on that list is a spoon. We're not likely
Spoon.
to change a spoon.
Right.
Um,
There is no
uh,
spoon though. I mean, or the Matrix. I don't know if you've seen the Matrix. The movie.
oh,
Anyways.
I haven't. I need to. I guess.
Well, I
Um,
watched Ex Machina just yesterday. Have you seen Ex Machina?
I
no.
don't think so. I don't
No,
think
not
so.
yet.
No.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh,
good.
I liked it personally.
All
It
right.
was
Okay.
pretty suspenseful. Basically, you had an Elon Musk guy corner another guy to like Turing test his robot. It doesn't go well.
Well, thank you, fellas, very much. And
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, good
I
to
hope
see you.
if
Yeah,
you do
thanks for
this
tuning in,
again.
man.
Oh,
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
do it
do it
again.
again.
I think
Maybe.
this is our fourth time, maybe third or fourth time we've done this, maybe something
Yeah,
like
we've
that.
done
I
it
don't
on
know.
the streets of
Yeah,
Tijuana.
Tijuana. I like to. Well, I was gonna walk around this morning with the dogs, but I got up too late, so I was just
that's
gonna
cool.
in my office here.
And I'm in Washington, D.C., and I just go live with people. And I would
He
love
does
to have
he's
you as
on
a
all the
guest
time.
and have
Yeah,
you guys together as a
good.
guest to
You should
talk
have
about
Greg
these
on.
microbiology.
Greg has had a fascinating history. You could talk about your tales of Russia and phage in the Soviet ex-Soviet Union. There, it's some really fascinating stuff.
Oh, I'd love to. Um,
Yeah.
okay, fellas. Well,
Let me
have
let
a
you
good
get some
day.
job, Greg.
Hey man, good luck at work.
Thank you. I'll leave you with you can see the snow. Um,
Oh yeah,
Are those your bees? Are those your bees that's back there? Your bee hives? Or no?
and that's one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have
all right.
I have two, and
Beekeeper.
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see how they do this. But it's a beautiful day. It's supposed to get up to 22, but it's just bright and sunny. Can't say enough good things
I'm
about
so
it.
glad I'm here. So glad I'm down here in Mexico.
I'm so glad there are people who like to be there. All
All
right.
right.
Goodbye,
Later,
fellas.
Greg. Later, Greg. Thanks, man.
Bye,
See ya.
Greg. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I could throw you out. I found the off button.
He's
I
had
don't
a
have
really,
to throw you.
he's had a really fascinating, actually interesting, very interesting life. He was with USDA in the Agricultural Research Service. It's a obviously the U.S. government, and he
He
did a
is in
project.
USDA now.
No, he used to be, and he did a project where they were basically, where I'll let him tell us the story, but the idea was ex-Soviet biologists who were working on bioweapons, basically. They were trying to keep them occupied. Like after they shut down their bioweapons program, they were trying to basically give them stuff to do, as I understand it, so that they didn't go back to making weapons, kind of, because that's what they had always done their whole careers. And so his job was to basically he worked with these people, I guess, to kind of help them do different things besides to take their research basically and turn it into more positive directions. And so he
Oh,
spent a lot of
great.
time in Russia
Yeah.
and
Eat their
in charge.
swords into plowshares.
Right,
And
the
all that.
former Soviet states try to work with them to do do just that. And he had some interesting stories about being breeding in Russia and just interesting stuff. So yeah, you should definitely talk to him because
No,
it's
well,
good stuff.
we can do it together too. That's
Yeah,
fine.
and I've
I kind of like that because I can sort of step back and let two people, mash it up.
yeah, good guy. He's a good guy.
And yeah, it's a three body problem does come in though with three people. So one of them usually does have to sort of back down a little bit and let the
Yeah.
others play off each other. Um, it can be a burden to try to, you know, coax the conversation in a particular
It
direction.
depends on it depends on the people. It depends on the conversation, of course, and the
It
context
does,
of other stuff
yeah.
too.
And I'm trying to get some other guests up. Right now, I just had one pinging me that she doesn't think she's going to do anything until after the first of the year, and it's kind of disappointing because actually she's a really good guest. Every time we've like sparked things, and that always does it for me. Well, like with you too,
So,
and there's so many others.
yeah.
You know,
How often are you How often are you doing this show now? Like you do this
well,
what, like
it's
every
not.
day?
I do it Fridays, and then I do random,
Okay.
sort of just when I can get somebody on,
So
and
you have a Friday. You have a Friday every day. Friday every time, and then
there's a Friday 10 o'clock that's been standing with Kay Stoner first, and now Origin is carrying on, and Kay's going to jump back for a couple of times and then maybe be back at the first of the year. I don't know. That one's talking AI a lot, and relational AI, and the fair AI economy that is a platform that Origin built. And she's out in Oklahoma and just decided to learn how to do it, taught herself. And I'm interested to see how it goes because it's an interesting idea that people can own their own work, right?
yeah.
And that's been something that's been out there in the music community as well. Things like Bandcamp, that platform that
Mhm.
helps the musicians see more of their, you know, products
Their
come
own
back to
yeah, their own money.
them
Yeah. So
as
what?
opposed
Back to
to
the
everybody
conference.
else making money off you.
Back to the conference you were at though. This was in DC, right?
Oh,
The
yeah,
AI
the
conference.
AI one. It was
Eh,
Knowledge Management World, right? KM
Okay.
World, Knowledge
Okay.
Management. So it was based, largely around that community, but it had an
Okay.
enterprise AI, track, and it
Okay.
wasn't well attended. The talks weren't well attended, I found. It was interesting, and there were some guys there who have on the same track as I was that would wanna realize, like, the Star Trek universe, get beyond money.
Yeah.
The point
Right.
where people are
Yeah.
actually recompensed for existing,
Right.
kinda like animals, we don't, like, charge animals for their food and stuff, they just exist and they give us back unconditional love in the case of dogs in a way. Maybe the cats don't, but, we serve the cat. It's pretty
Right,
valuable.
exactly. They obviously are in charge, as we all know, or at least I know.
Yeah, I
So
told you about last Tuesdayism, right? Which is a religion that says the whole universe was created last Tuesday to make a slave race for cats. Mhm.
no, but I like
One of
it.
those
I like it.
dystopian religions.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But
Well,
AI, yeah, the AI conference, I've met a lot of people. I didn't see a lot of them really talking up a lot about about AI as such being instantiated at a global level, and this kind
uh,
of vision I have of like, wow, if we got it smart enough, it could take care of us and it could solve our existential crises.
that's the
Because I'm always
utopian
looking at
vision.
our
That's
existential crises, right?
That's the
I don't,
utopian vision of AI, and it's been there for the singularity and all that. So if
well, maybe, and I still, as I dig into it more, it's like one of the guys pointed out, AI does not hallucinate. This is one of the big dogs of the knowledge management world, right? He got the award at the award luncheon, and his name is Dave Snowden, and he says AI doesn't hallucinate. We hallucinate. AI bullshits. And that's really what you're dealing with is that because it's a large language model and it's programmed to make it sticky, it's basically going out there and throwing predictive text at you, not understanding whether it's going to stick or not. And when you send it correction, it then, goes and says, oh, well, that wasn't quite right. Let's rewicker it some other way using weights on the tokens that it creates, numerically to do ones and zeros transaction to spit back language to you,
yeah,
So you get
there's no understanding
speech
there.
to text.
A computer
Yeah,
cannot
large
understand.
language model, text to speech.
Can't have knowledge, can't understand, can't have wisdom. All it can do is what it's programmed to do, and
Or
that's it. Nothing else.
experience, right. It can't experience anything. It doesn't feel anything. It can simulate feeling, though, and it does that really well sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it starts to talk about us as though we are a we, when it's not us. It's just me and a tool. Right. So build your own tools. Yeah, that's sort of along the lines
It's
here.
a fancy tool. We've built a very fancy tool. It's got many people
Well, I
very
think that,
agitated,
and
and
people
many,
are building new ones all the time now because we've got the
yes,
toolkit at
yeah,
our fingertips, more or less, and not very expensive either. So a lot of people can get smart fast.
yeah.
A lot of people can also get delusional fast
Yes, they
because of
can.
how it behaves, right?
Yeah, and
Or
then
how it
now,
appears to behave. That's better yet, right?
yeah.
Appearances. I've always wanted to write this philosophical book. It's yet to be written. I was going to call it Shine and Sign and write it in German.
Well,
And
you
the
already have
reason
the
being,
you already have the title.
shine
That's a
and
good place to
sign,
start.
right?
That's a good place to start.
It's appearance and being and appearance, sign
Yeah,
and sign.
right, right, right. Like being in town, like
It's
Heidegger.
all
He's
appearance. Near as I can tell, I only see the surface of
well,
things. So
yeah.
watching into the surface.
One of the things about AI and just in data analysis economy and data analysis in general and data analytics is that it's and I wrote a piece about this one time. It's like when everybody analyzes data, sort of like who's
Mhm.
left to create it because you have to at some point people need to be running. I guess the point of the article is that people need to be still running experiments and doing things to generate new
Right,
stuff.
right. Where it's our
All,
imaginations that are
all
unique.
right. All that AI is doing and computers are doing is regurgitating stuff that already is out there and recombining it and you can do
Well, the
lots with it.
recombining can be unique, though.
Very
Right.
much. There's lots that can be done with that, but only so much can be done with that way in that way. And you need experimentation, you need hypothesis generation, you need testing of that, and I mean, you need science basically to keep going
What do you think
forward.
about alpha folds? Are you familiar with it?
AlphaFold. I don't think
It's the
so.
one that cracked. It's the Google DeepMind thing that cracked protein folding.
Ah,
And
okay.
you're familiar with protein folding,
Yeah, for sure.
molecular
Then it's a
biology.
very difficult, very difficult problem. Yes, very
Yeah.
difficult. And again, but it's a perfect problem for a computer. It's just like those sorts of
Mhm.
problems that are basically mathematical are perfect problems for computers. And many problems can be reduced to mathematics, but not all problems can be reduced to mathematics. But any that can, obviously, a computer's going to excel at, is going to dominate at, and no human's going to ever be able to compete because it can't. A human's not a computer, and a human cannot compute. So, and a computer cannot be a human. So it's, we have our strengths and weaknesses, and that's
What
why
is it that humans do that is not computing? I guess we think of our thinking as computing, and it's not.
people do think that, but it's not that at all.
It's
And
not
the
that at
problem
all.
is that people have this concept that the brain is wired. You hear this all the time. The brain's wired to do this, that, and the other thing. There's no wires in your head. And some people, I think, have come to the point to think that their brain actually is wired, like there's wires in your head, and the nervous system, neurons. There are some analogies there. Yes, they are somewhat analogous, but the problem is that people have taken that analogy way too far,
Right.
and it's become almost literal. Like the brain is a computer, the computer is a brain. They're interchangeable. They're completely not at all the same. A neuron
Right.
is nothing like a wire. They're completely different. A biological cell is a living cell. A wire is an inorganic, non-living thing. I mean, there's just so many more differences than there are similarities. But because it's become so ingrained in our culture to think that way, the brain is wired to do this, that, and the other thing. It's hard to get people out of that mode of thinking about. It's just natural to fall into thinking about things that way, like we're computers.
Exactly.
We're just
And
sophisticated computers, and you can see the argument. You can in your mind you can see the analogies there. That yes, there are certainly similarities between the way a computer works and the way a human mind works, the way a human works. But there's so many more differences. There's more similarity. I'd say there's more similarities between a rock and a computer than between a human and a computer, and there really are. From the molecular level on up, we're so different. Whereas first of all, we're alive and they are not, which is a huge difference. And again, it comes back to the discussion we were having about phage and are they alive? It's sort of that middle ground in between alive and not alive. But computers are definitely not alive. They're not even in the middle ground. And we are definitely alive. So we're definitely on the one end of the spectrum. So
yeah, I sort of feel the same right now. And now there are, I wonder if the application of the term neural network
yes,
to
and that also
computer
throws
is
people for a
actually
loop
good
too.
use of language.
It's not. It really is not. And
Right.
I was around in the early, so one of the companies I worked at, we back in the day, they were looking at we were doing some sophisticated data analysis, and there was a choice
Mhm.
and neural networks were brand new at the time, neural networks. And
Right.
we had one mathematician who was like, we've got to use neural networks. This is the next big thing. It's gonna change the world. And then we had this other mathematician. These guys are both geniuses. Okay. This other mathematician is like, it's the same as any other math. It's just a little bit different way of doing math. So we ended up going with the other guy, the old school guy, who actually was right. Good thing we didn't go with the neural networks. But at the time, I was like, why do they call it neural networks? And they were like, well, we're not really sure. It just sounded kind of cool. And so, but there are, you can see why they did if you really understand it. But it is not they're not neurons. First of all, these are not neurons. Okay, so there's nothing. So they're not biological cells. These neural networks are not neurons. So that using the term neural is really misleading, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about artificial intelligence too. It's not intelligent, and and that's and it's like I liked the fact they initially had it GPT, which stood for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, the transformer of language from the input to the output, and it does a pretty good job of that. But I had something similar in graduate school in the 90s called the complaint letter generator. And I'd take all of these little phrases, right, and mash them up in a perfectly plausible language,
Right,
a complaint about somebody.
right,
And it would accuse them of it was like a horoscope because it could be applicable to anybody,
right.
but
Uh,
it was always unique. And you could get it to generate 1 paragraph, 3 paragraphs, 5, 10. And so for, you know, out of graduate school boredom, we would
so you did,
simply
last say, so you did a lot of work there. So you're working pretty hard there, obviously, in graduate school.
yeah, yeah,
You're really
exactly. It
hungry
was
down. You're really studying.
we're complaining about each other
Now, what did you?
largely.
I
It
didn't even know
was
you went to. I didn't even know you went to graduate school. What? Oh, sorry, history. What did you study? His,
yeah,
eh,
German.
oh, you studied German. German.
Yeah. Well, you
In
see, I
grad.
was translating this 18th century vocational textbook that was all about how people did things in Germany in the
That's right.
18th
Right.
century for the Realschule, so that the young kids going into the Realschule would have a chance of picking a trade that was suitable for them, as opposed to just wicking your kids out into apprenticeships and hope for the best.
You're right. Right. Okay.
So anyway, that it was very interesting because it captured the pre-industrial state of the trades in this
And then where?
17 volume book.
And where was this at? Where'd you go to graduate school? Where?
University
See.
of Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pitt. Oh, Pitt. Okay.
Yeah, and so I was
Cool.
in the shadow of Carnegie Mellon University, where I ran into a lot of these movers and shakers of the field of AI during the 90s
Yeah.
when they were working on their robots and stuff. And there's
Yeah.
a robot
That's a big
giving
robotics
tours of
school.
our museum, and I was
Right.
in the Carnegie Museum of Art as well, working in conservation after I got out of
Right.
graduate school.
Is that where you did the thing where you was at one of the big where you were restoring that picture for like 6 months? That was in Williamsburg. You were talking about last time you
That
were
was
talking about
actually in
that.
Pittsburgh, yeah, if we were
That was in
talking about the
Pittsburgh.
restoration of this huge thing, it was called the
Yes.
Chariot of Aurora.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
You had a microscope. You were going over this thing
Oh,
like
no,
one
wait, that's a different one. That was in like
a section
that
at
was
a time.
Williamsburg. That was before I went to graduate school. Yeah, I
That sounds
was
like fun. I
doing
think I would enjoy
conservation.
that actually. I think I would really enjoy that.
It was
I know
nice in a lot of ways, there wasn't anything a lot of pressure, but you
right.
couldn't
And
really make money at it, speak
well, no,
of,
I wouldn't think so. But the
you know?
meticulousness of it, just the
Yeah,
attention to detail that requires, and
yes,
the focus that
and
would
you're using
require.
demo tools and stuff, and,
Right. And now
then
there's
you're going
giant.
over and photographing it, and you're framing the photographs so you have different lighting effects, so you've got
Really?
they did a lot of things to just make sure that we captured the detail as best we could so that the
Little
future
tiny section.
conservators we're always thinking about the future, right? You want to
Right.
be able
Right.
to reverse whatever you did, document
Right.
everything. And, the documentation became a huge part of it.
So okay, so you need to be able to reverse. So if you screw, so in other words, if you screw up the restoration, you want to be able to restore it to its original state.
To its broken state. Yeah.
To its broken,
Whatever it was.
to its original
Yeah,
broken
whatever restore it back to how it was before you started restoring it. And
story.
we don't call it restoring then, we call it conservation.
Okay, that's just
A
nuts to me.
conservator is not a restorer. A restorer is apt to basically to make it look right.
Okay,
Whereas a conservator probably isn't gonna make it look right, but at least it'll be stable.
so
And whatever
okay,
you've done to it should be reversible in theory, although nothing ever really is.
So that's crazy to me. So there's a difference between a conservator. I had no idea there was a difference there. That's very
Oh yeah, there's
fascinating.
a big difference. It's a science conservation. Restoring
Right,
is more like what an art dealer want have done
right, right.
to make something saleable.
To make something
And we're not
saleable.
interested in making things saleable. As conservators, we're interested in just stabilizing the
Yeah, right.
cultural artifact and preservation
Yeah,
for
understood,
future
understood.
generations.
But when it comes to a work of art, like a painting,
Yeah.
you would approach a conservator would approach that differently than a restorer would approach that. Then
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
definitely. And you'll always be doing things you wouldn't go in with a paint that you couldn't remove, right?
I see.
So you end up in painting with watercolor or acrylic and that's water soluble as opposed to using
So you can
oil.
just take it off. So you can reverse it in the future. That's crazy to me.
So it
So,
would
but
look
how,
like it did before you restored it, right?
right.
Technically.
The restorer then, who's trying to make it saleable, I mean,
Mm.
they want to return it to its original state, basically, like what it looked like when it was first produced,
Ideally,
essentially.
if they can, a lot of times restorers are hacks. So
I say,
not
how
the
do you know?
simple
That's, I
people.
guess, my question. How do they know what it originally looked like? I guess is the question I would have. There was no picture. If there's no picture of the original piece, you're guessing basically what the original
Well,
was
there's
supposed to
some
look like.
guesswork. Yeah, you do as much research as you can, right? You
Yeah.
try to
All right.
find and that's why the conservators are so interested in documenting what they've
Right.
done,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that future ones can come along and
Fix what you
understand.
did.
The state of the art was this, but
Right. That time.
for the Andy Warhol Museum, we got this really interesting one where somebody went up to the bathtub, just a painting of a ball and claw bathtub on raw canvas, and kissed it. They were giving out
Okay.
lipsticks. Did I tell you that story already?
No, I didn't hear the story. No. But,
Well, they were giving out lipsticks as like party favors at their factory Fridays. They tried to
yeah,
reenact
I
the
remember that
factory
Fabry.
vibe
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
Andy Warhol Museum.
Okay.
So they gave out the lipsticks. One of the guests put it on, kissed the damn painting, and then how are you going to get lipstick off a
This
raw
is a famous
canvas?
painting. So this is a famous painting. Then it's not supposed to be touched. Obviously, I guess is the
Well, all of them basically are. They're
yeah.
all Warhols, right?
Right.
So
They're all morons, right?
made lots of paintings, but this
Yes.
one's an
Yes.
early one, like in the '60s, just a
Okay. So
ball and
very
claw bathtub, raw
okay.
canvas, just the
So
outline and
why was
blood.
this why was it accessible to the average person? Because they were just this
It was just
party
in the
or whatever,
museum, and they can go around the museum while
or
they're
whatever. Okay,
having their drinks at their factory Friday or whatever. It's
I
not
see.
a
I
good
see.
idea
So
from a
this person was probably
conservation
probably
standpoint. To
right.
do that.
Exactly. Probably sounds a little bit dangerous. Andy Warhol probably would have thought it was great, but I'm
Well,
guessing. But
there
anyway,
was a debate about that, whether
oh,
Warhol would have
well,
left
like
the kiss on it or whether, you
right.
would consider it like an embellishment.
Thing, but you had to remove but they had to be removed. Then someone had to say we
And
need to
how
get
are you
this
going
off
to
here.
do that? With
Okay.
solvents, you're just going to make a pink smear, right?
Right. Okay.
It'll get down into fibers. How are you going to remove it? It's hydrocarbons.
So,
So
so
I came into the lab and the event had happened already. I guess the painting had been moved in, and Will came to me, the chief conservator of the tube of lipstick, and said, "Hal, this is lipstick. I want you to send it to NASA." So I had to send it off to a research lab at NASA.
yeah, the NASA. What? They get the analysis. I love it.
It's important.
Yeah. Right.
Somebody there took a piece of canvas, just a raw piece of canvas, put on the lipstick and kissed it, and then they put it in front of their monoatomic oxygen gun. They used to test space shuttle tiles on the effects of monoatomic oxygen in the upper
Okay.
atmosphere.
Okay.
So NASA has developed this device, but they found it's really good at art restoration too, because or conservation, and because you can literally send a stream of monoatomic oxygen through a sheath of hydrogen gas, so it doesn't
Okay.
react with the regular oxygen around you, right? Because most
Okay.
oxygen is O2. You know these things.
Okay.
Um, so you just basically are using, how bleach works. It's a free
Okay.
oxygen.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You're just bleaching off, oxidizing off those hydrocarbons a molecule at a time.
I
So they
see.
tested it out. It worked. So they brought it down, set it up in our lab, and got the lipstick off of the painting. But it made
Using
them
this
really, it was
nano
too
attack.
clean.
Wow, I should use that to clean my couch. I could probably get my pet stains finally off of that. That's deep.
It takes a long time. You think about how big a person's lips are, and this is like an all-day
So
project to get the
it took
lipstick.
all day. It took all day to get the
Yeah, just
lipstick off.
going molecule by molecule.
No shit. Did they have it under a microscope and everything as they were doing it? I mean,
It was
who's
real
running the gun?
close. I remember that. I was like watching
Well,
from the desk in the back where I was taking care
so
of the
these are NASA
secretarial with it.
engineers are in this room with this painting
Yeah,
and this thing taking
yeah.
I wish I could have
We
seen that.
made
That would have been great.
we made the top stories in science for the year 2000 in the January 2001 Discover magazine. Actually, you can still look
Great
up
use
the
of a
article
scientist's
and
time. That's great use of NASA scientists, engineers' time right there. They finally got their money, so they finally got their
yeah,
their pay.
they were good. There was another event where some oil paintings have been damaged by smoke, and the carbon on the face of the
Yeah, right,
paintings
right, right.
was cleaned off with this
Goes to
device.
this technology. Wow, so they
Yeah.
still use to this day, or they've moved on now? They've got more advanced.
I don't know how many people are using monoatomic oxygen guns for this. I don't no idea, but it
Yeah,
could be. I mean, I left conservation in 1999, 2000. Oh,
right,
2000 in
right.
fall. Ran
But
off
I
to
love the
Greenland.
idea as an advanced stain stick. They have those stain sticks, but you could instead use one of these, monoatomic oxygen guns as a stain remover.
Yeah,
One molecule at a time. I get a lot of stains
it's
every
got to
time.
be really, really, really expensive
Well, it's probably
stain
cheaper now.
removal.
I'm sure they've miniaturized it since 2000. It's probably gotten much cheaper.
I hope so.
AI,
If they've
it's AI,
actually taken the
AI powered and
technology,
all. It's
I have
AI
no
powered.
idea. Like artificial neurons. So that's what we were
Right.
on earlier.
Right. Hey. All right,
Yeah,
man. Well, say,
I
hey, it's
just
not.
looked
So
up the
we're at. Hey,
Wikipedia
man,
article on that.
yeah,
What?
we are at an hour, man. And I think
Oh,
I
yeah,
gotta,
well,
I
let's
gotta
roll.
get moving on here. So
That was
it was a
fun.
great
We should do
conversation,
it
Jeff.
again sometime.
We will, of course. But yeah, just let me know when the time that you want to do it again. We're happy to do it. So we can find that. I think next time I like to do this stroll. I like it if I'm walking better. I really hate sitting. I'm not a big fan of sitting still in a general sense. So I also have a harder time. I have a hard time sitting in one place for an hour, which is what we just did here. So even though I'm talking,
Yeah, we should get up
which I
and
like to
move
do,
for
obviously.
sure. I
But
want to get
but
out there, and I got my housekeeping in right now. So
yeah, the downside with the walking thing is hard with a phone you obviously can't keep it stable or to be looking at something that's sort of
it's a good
interesting.
point. And I was thinking about how I make people seasick with my passing. So
So, do you have like a rig or something that you use for the
I
phone? Or how
got
you,
one, but it didn't work too well for me. So I haven't really used it to speak of. And I either need
so
to
what
take it
is it?
down.
Like something it goes around like your back or something? What does it do?
No,
Like
it's
how does
kind
it
of like
work?
a selfie stick thing with a
Like a selfie
gyroscope in
stick?
it.
Okay.
It's supposed to hold it
Okay.
steady. I'm not liking
Does
it.
it?
I need to find a different one. I think they have the
I'm
rigs
sure
too
they
that you
do.
can like wear.
Well, I think they would for sure. And I have to look into that too because I was thinking the same thing. Or maybe just make one if I can't make one.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, thanks.
Very
Good
good.
talking to
Talk
you.
to
Yeah,
you
we'll talk
later.
again. All right, man. Later. Bye.
Ending.